So I want to talk Budweiser. Last week, I know many of you guys saw the advertisement that came out, or it seemed to be a promotional campaign of Mulvaney getting this can from Bud Light. And I was really, really confused. I know many of you were too. And I want to tell you what kind of was the basis of my confusion. Obviously, this is a bad move by Budweiser, no doubt. And I was so bothered by this, obviously sent out some tweets and we talked about it on the show. And I decided to start asking what's going on and ask people that I know that are connected with the issue, or at least kind of remotely to the company, like, guys, this doesn't seem right. Let me tell you why, because, kind of looking at the landscape of corporations, Coca-Cola, okay, I expect strange and weird things from Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola paid a huge bucket of money to have Robin DiAngelo come in and talk about how to be an anti-racist. Do you remember that the slideshow that came out of Coca-Cola where they said that we have to try to abolish whiteness or something of that variety? Or how about Nike is one of the worst, as we just talked about with Ali London. Nike, who hired Colin Kaepernick, or Disney. I mean, Disney, who comes out and they publish blatant and flagrant LGBTQ propaganda as actual content expected from them. Or remember the Major League Baseball, who comes out and they say, yeah, we're moving the All-Star game out of Atlanta, which is heavily and significantly black, and going to Denver. But Anheuser-Busch, I'll be really honest, I was bothered by this because I don't drink, and I know many of you drink or you don't, whatever, no moral judgment there. I just personally don't drink. That you feel an attachment to Anheuser-Busch, that it's this Americana brand that started in this country. And quite honestly, we thought of this brand as something that was supposed to be safe, as something that was off limits. And so I decided to look into this because it just did not make any sense. A very legendary brand across the board. And it was like, my goodness, like you lose Coca-Cola and you lose Nike and you lose Disney, and Budweiser or Bud Light or whatever, I mean, it was Bud Light, but obviously under Anheuser-Busch, held up its quality for quite some time. And so I looked into this, I started to ask around, and based on all reports, it seems as if it was a mid-level management screw-up of somebody that sent out like a specific can. It's not a commemorative can, is what I've been told by people associated with the company, that it wasn't being sold in stores or anything like that. But I do think it's interesting because I said, okay, well, what are their politics, right? Like, do they associate with us? Do they not? And so I looked into it. In the 2022 cycle, Anheuser-Busch donated nearly $500,000 to try to get J.D. Vance elected, nearly $464,000 to try to fire Nancy Pelosi, $250,000 to try to win the Senate seat with Eric Schmidt, $200,000 for just broad Republican efforts, and they gave a little bit, like a micron, to Democrats. So it's okay. So they generally, through their contributions, and they say they give it because of taxes and for trade policy, but they're not like some of these other companies that have just gone through the other side completely. And so it's a massive company. And it's possible that a few wokies slipped things through, and it appears that that is the case. And look, so they donate money to Pelosi, to fire Pelosi. They donate money to fire J.D. Vance. It's not Google, right? And I think that's why so many of us were bothered from this, because this idea of institutional capture is troublesome. How many other brands have we just said, wow, that's what it means to be, not Budweiser is what it means to be an American, but it's like an American brand. We have an attachment to it. We think highly of it. So it started in America. Their advertisements were always very pro-American. Ford, for example. And based on what I've learned, this seems to be an error. It seems to be a mistake, one that has cost them some money, and I hope that it's just a one-time thing and they turn away from it. But they also don't seem to be overly political. They just seem to want to be non-political at every turn. That's what made this concerning. So look, the evidence seems that this is a one-off screw-up. I certainly hope it doesn't happen again. I don't know anyone directly at the company. I didn't talk to anyone directly. They're just people that are associated kind of in the orbit. I don't know their personal politics. But you look at this, Harley Davidson, Levi Strauss. I just made a list here. PepsiCo. You look at one after PepsiCo is gone completely and totally woke. Not to mention the ones that have signed on to this trans corporate bathroom bill. Anheuser-Busch refused to sign on to it. Airbnb, Amazon, American Airlines, Apple, AT&T, Capital One, Comcast, Dell, Facebook, General Mills, General Motors, Google, Marriott, MasterCard, Microsoft, Nike, T-Mobile, Toyota, Walt Disney, Wells Fargo, Yahoo sign on to that letter. And so I guess we'll find out, right, as time proceeds. But if they're donating money to go get J.D. Vance elected and to go get Nancy Pelosi fired, it is possible, it is conceivable you can have one slip through. So we'll find out. And by the way, if we found out throughout our research, because I always want to give you the truth, that these people were super woke and they hate the country, then I would tell you that, obviously. But it would be a tragedy to lose Anheuser-Busch to the wokies, wouldn't it? So I hope a lesson is learned here. I hope that people are held accountable, whatever that looks like, because I was bothered by this. I know you were too. We got so many emails about it. Email after email after email. So I wanted to find out what the heck was going on. That another American brand that we care so much about. But it doesn't seem, at least in this case, that that's the entire picture. And I certainly hope that's true. Because I, for one, I'm really sick of losing some of the institutions to the radical woke left.